It's what you make it. If you don't do anything, nothing will happen. There is nothing to escape from. You have to create your own reality here.
You thought Dolph Lundgren was the unbreakable titan, the man who made the entire world believe one human being could shatter another. You were wrong. Behind that iron composure were 5 men who pushed him to a place no camera ever captured. 5 co-stars, 5 betrayals, and at 68, the full truth is finally coming out. Critics called him a one-trick heavyweight, whispered he was all muscle, no mind. But what no one ever told you is what he saw, and endured, behind the cameras of some of Hollywood's most legendary productions. By the time this is over, you'll understand exactly why Dolph Lundgren does to forgive, and you'll understand why he was right. Not Number 1. Jean-Claude Van Damme. The man who challenged him outside on paper, Universal Soldier, was the most explosive pairing in action cinema history. 2 global icons, 1 film. The promise was box office immortality. In reality, it was 60 days of controlled warfare. Lundgren arrives on set day 1 like a soldier. Lines cold, movements rehearsed, every scene locked and ready. Van Damme arrives like someone who has already decided the film is his. He changes dialogue in the makeup chair. He calls for lighting adjustments between takes, not for technical reasons, but so his jawline catches more shadow. He demands additional angles for kicks the script never asked for. Every day felt like watching 2 lions stare across a field, one crew member tells French press years later. Nobody wanted to be between them. Then comes the moment that ends all debate. At a press junket, in front of dozens of journalists and cameras, Van Damme steps toward Dolph and issues a challenge. Come outside and finish it. The room goes airless. Everyone assumes it's a publicity stunt. It is not. Dolph says nothing. He holds Van Damme's stare for a long, quiet moment and then looks away, not in retreat, in refusal. If ID said yes, he admits privately to a Swedish magazine later, it would have ended well for anyone. That line travels further than any trailer. Years later, on the Expendables 2, they share a set again. They film their scenes. They don't speak once. When asked in 2018 if he'd ever seek a real collaboration with Van Damme, answer comes without a pause. Why? What's left to prove? That silence is louder than any fight. Number 2, Steven Seagal, the man who invented himself. This one never even made it to a film set. It ended before the cameras were ever rolling, and that tells you everything. The meeting is arranged for a potential action feature. A table read, a formality. Seagal arrives with sunglasses indoors, a personal security guard, and the kind of energy that suggests everyone in the room should already know who the lead is. Before a single chair is pulled out, he looks across at Dolph and says, "You should know. I am the top fighter in this room." His opening line, his hello, Dolph blinks, not in offense, in something closer to scientific curiosity, as if he's witnessing a phenomenon he can't quite classify. It gets worse. Seagal announces, casually, "T take hits on camera." He then begins pitching a version of the script where his character never bleeds, never struggles, never loses momentum for a single frame. The producers smile tightly. One leans across and whispers to an associate, he wants to be bulletproof. Stunt performers have already warned Dolph that Seagal's on-set demonstrations tend to leave people injured. A crew member on a previous production shows up the next morning with a swollen wrist and quotes Seagal directly. He said it builds character. Dolph does to argue. He does to escalate. He watches the room empty itself of dignity, closes his folder, and stands. Later, to his team, he says one sentence, "Discipline impresses me." Pretending does he tells them that if Seagal's name appears on any future project, his answer is no. Studios will try to broker a pairing multiple times over the following decade. Every door is shut before it opens, because Dolph Lundgren has learned something most people take years to accept. The loudest man in the room is usually the smallest one. Number 3, Mickey Rourke. The artist who treated everyone else as the canvas. Mickey Rourke is a genuine talent. Dolph knew it going in, respected it, and gave it every professional courtesy. Mickey spent the next few weeks dismantling every single one of those courtesies, their early 2000s action thriller films in Eastern Europe during a brutal winter schedule. The cold is visible in every frame. The crew works fast. Lundgren is on his marks. His lines are clean. He treats the production like a military operation because he was trained by one. Rourke arrives each day with handwritten pages, not small edits, but sprawling new monologues about childhood trauma, Vietnam, religion, guilt. Scenes that never existed in the script. He inserts them into the middle of tightly choreographed sequences, and then looks genuinely baffled when actors don't know how to respond. One night, they rescheduled to film a two-man standoff at 10 p.m. Rourke walks in at 1:47 a.m. with a cigarette in his mouth, coat still on, explaining calmly that he needed to walk the city to find the character. The crew has been standing in a freezing industrial set for 3 hours. Dolph has been in full costume, completely still, since the original call time. He says one thing to the first ad, quietly and without drama. If he leaves again, shoot without him. A week later, during a blocking rehearsal, shoves away the script supervisor and shouts that he can be told how to feel a scene. Then he turns to Dolph, lets the silence settle and smiles. Some guys act from instinct, he says. Others just flex. Room goes utterly silent. That's the line. That was the invitation to war, and Dolph declines it. After the film wraps, Rourke pulls out of the promotional tour entirely, leaving Lundgren alone to field questions about the both of them. No call, no explanation, no apology. Dolph's verdict years later is delivered without venom. We once share a set again, not anger, a fact. The quietest kind of ending is the most permanent. Number 4, Tom Berenger. The man who tried to edit Dolph out of his own film. There are insults you can dismiss. And then there's what Tom Berenger did, which was slow, calculated, and clinical. Their 2002 war film, shot in Slovakia on a modest budget and a tight schedule, should have been a clean production. Berenger has other plans. By week 1, he's arriving with rewritten pages. Pages, by pure coincidence, expand every one of his speeches and trim every one of Dolph's lines. The director keeps a diplomatic face. The crew is watching. By the 3rd week, Berenger is rebuilding scenes architecturally. An abandoned steel factory. A short, sharp confrontation scheduled for midnight. Berenger refuses to begin unless he is allowed to deliver a 2-minute improvised speech he has written for himself. A long reckoning that has nothing to do with the scripted scene and everything to do with making the audience forget. There's another actor, standing across from him, finally looks at the director and says it plainly. He's hijacking the film. Berenger doesn't argue. He walks back to his trailer, and the frozen crew watches him go. But the real damage comes in post-production. In Bratislava, an editor privately informs Dolph's team of the requests that have been made. Remove several of Lundgren's medium shots. Reduce his reaction close-ups during shared dialogue. Additional cutaways to Berenger's face in scenes they were supposed to be sharing equally. He wants the film to read as a solo character study, with Dolph fading quietly into the background. Dolph completes his HR sessions. He walks out. He tells his agent a single sentence. If Berenger signs a project, I'm not interested. He has never broken that rule. Because for Dolph Lundgren, the editing room is where people reveal who they truly are. And he saw clearly Number 5, Brian Thompson. The quiet wound that never healed. This feud never made a headline. There was no confrontation, no public spectacle, no single explosion. And that is precisely why it cut deepest. It begins with a whisper. After Rocky IV makes Dolph Lundgren a global icon, Thompson, who was also considered for the role of Ivan Drago, begins telling people in casting circles that he would have brought more depth to it, hears it third hand and sets it aside. Hollywood noise, but Thompson does stop. At industry events, at mixers, whenever their orbits cross, he finds a way to slip in the needle. At one gathering, during a conversation about iconic villains, he says, loudly enough for Dolph to hear, some roles are written flat. The actor can only do so much. Nobody in the room needs a translation. During a table read in the early 90s, Thompson interrupts Dolph twice during a single rehearsal, then smirks and says, let's not make this look like a weightlifting contest. It is funny, it is teasing, it is a man using laughter as a blade. Final straw arrives at a Las Vegas fan expo. During a Q&A panel, Thompson mocks the I must break you line. one of the most recognized moments in action cinema history, and tells the audience he would have delivered it with actual feeling. The crowd laughs. Dolph hears about it within minutes. He cancels his panel. He does private signings instead. The only time he has ever done so, he never confronts Thompson. He never acknowledges it publicly. He simply removes him from his consideration, from his attention, from his world he deletes, a longtime associate once explained, not out of anger, out of respect for his own time. That is the most final kind of silence there is. 5 names, 5 very different betrayals. But the pattern is always the same. A man who came prepared, showed up on time, said what he meant, and walked away when the room stopped deserving his presence. Dolph Lundgren never needed to be the loudest. He only needed to be the last one standing. So, which of those 5 surprised you most? And do you think he was right to cut every single one of them off permanently? No exceptions? Drop your answer in the comments. If you want more untold stories like this, the real Hollywood drama happening behind the cameras, not in front of them, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. There is a lot more where this came from.